Shalom and welcome to Mama Rahel Ministries. Today we're going to be studying a topic that is very important for us to understand. When we study the Torah, sometimes we don't follow some themes that we will find inside the Torah portions and inside the Torah itself that we have to compare with the ancient Near East and how they lived and how they saw things back in the days. So that's what we're going to try to do today. We're going to try to connect some of the legal language from ancient Near East, and try to find the same legal language in the Bible in order to understand what our role or purpose is for us. So, in doing so, we will understand better the Bible, and also we will understand what our role is in regards to God and what we have to do in order to defend God's honor. Now, today, we're going to try to understand why we have the responsibility as a vassal to defend God's holy things and protect them. Is it our responsibility? Is it our duty? Is it something that we can choose whether we do it or not? How responsible are we to protect God's special things, God's holy things, if we are his vassal? How did they understand in the ancient Near East the function of a vassal and his responsibilities, as well as the responsibility of the great sovereign? This is very important for us in order to understand uh, our responsibility nowadays. What do we have to do in order to uh, defend or protect those holy things? So we're gonna start with the legal language first. We're gonna go. Actually, I'm using the methodology from my teacher Rico Cortez, and we're gonna go into a structure pattern, and we're gonna follow what is legality in the Bible. We're gonna go to the book of Daniel, chapter 5, and then we're gonna see something from the book of Samuel. But first, let's understand a little bit about the legal context of the Bible and ancient Near East. Now, I will ask you if you could subscribe, hit the like button, and share with others so others can also have the same access to this information. Now, let's start with the legal language from the ancient Near East, and we will understand what's the responsibilities from a vassal defending God's holy things. Does the vassal have something to do with it? Are we vassal from God? First, let's go into the book of um let me go to um the book of Exodus, chapter 19. And this is very important because when we understand our where do we stand in regards to God, we will understand the Bible in a different way, and we will understand also our responsibilities in a different way. Now, let me go to chapter 19, and keep in mind that this is the covenant that the people of Israel entered on Mount Sinai. So this is part of it, and then the rest of it we will find in chapter 24. But let's read through this. Let's read from verse 3. It says, Moses went up to the Lord, to God, and the Lord called him from the mountain. Thus you will teach the house of Jacob and declare to the people of Israel. You yourself have seen what I did in Egypt and how I lifted you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. And now, if you will diligently listen to me and keep my covenant, then you will be my special possession out of all the nations, for all the earth is mine. And you will be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nations. These are the words that you will speak to the Israelites. So this is what we call the preamble. In the ancient Near East, there is a way to structure covenants. There's a preamble, what the king has done, or what the God has done. In this case, the God of Israel. What has he done for the people of Israel, that he has brought them out of Egypt, and he's giving them a history of what he has done for him. In the ancient Near East and in the Bible, we will see that God is going to be the initiator of the covenant, while in the ancient Near East, God is not the initiator of a covenant. Although, when we see the sovereign in ancient Near East, they do extend gifts to people and they react in a way or in a pattern that we will see clearly throughout the Bible as well. So it's very important for us to understand the patterns and the distinction between ancient Near East and the Bible. Now, this is the first time that the people or a people will actually hear the voice of God, because nobody in the ancient Near East ever heard the voice of a God or a deity. Only in the Bible we will see that God actually speaks to the people. And that's part of what has to deal with what is honor and shame, because now he's establishing a people of honor. He's giving them honor because in ancient Near East only the priests and the kings or people, the elite people, could have access to the deity. Here, God is extending that access not only to the priest and the elite, but also to all the people of Israel. They could hear the voice of God. So now the people are going to answer in a specific way. It says, so Moses came and summoned the elders of Israel, and he said before them all these words that the Lord had commanded him. And all the people answered together, all that the Lord has commanded, we will do. So Moses brought the words of the people back to the Lord. So the people are actually entering into a covenantal relationship with God. All that God has said, we will do. This is very important because if we enter into a covenant with the God of Israel and we reply or we also say the same words, all that the Lord has said we will do, then this is a covenantal relationship between God and between the people of Israel. Also, keep in mind that in ancient Near East, covenants basically were celebrated between peoples, not one person. It used to be a community, a nation, or a clan, or a family. It's not only one individual. Or most of the time, everything has to do collective with the whole nation, with the whole community. So here, the whole community not only accepted the terms and the conditions of the covenant, but they also understand that they have to follow through or they will have consequence if they don't follow through. So this is the beginning for our study today for understanding what is a legal language of a passage. Now, when somebody went into a covenant with a sovereign, in this case, it can be a king, it can be the God of Israel, or it can be a God. Now there is a responsibility. In legal terms, this is called a vassal. Now Israel become a vassal to God, and God becomes a sovereign to Israel. This is very important for us to understand because if we understand, now we gotta find out what's the responsibility for a vassal, what are the responsibility and the benefits from the sovereign. This is very important for us to understand. Now keep that in mind because that's what we're gonna go through now. So it says when a vassal receives an unmerited gift from the sovereign, the response follow a very recognizable pattern. 1. Recognition and praise. 2. Prostration and language of self-abasement. 3. Formal declaration of. So these are the steps that somebody in the ancient Near East would respond or somebody would act in this manner after they receive a gift from a sovereign. Now, why would somebody become a vassal of a sovereign? Now, when we understand the ancient Near East, and today is the same thing, there are alliances done between different countries. It's the same thing. A smaller country or a smaller nation could make an alliance with another bigger nation, and this is called a sovereign. Normally, they had not only one but two, three, four, five. If we go to, let's go here to the vibe. Here some archaeological findings. Let's say, let me see, sacred. When we study sacred pillars, here, sacred pillars, and we understand, for example, this pillar is the obelisk of Shalmaneser the third. It says this black limestone obelisk depicts five kings conquered by Shalmaneser, third king of Assyria. So this obelisk is showing and bearing testimony and the name of the king Shalmaneser, who is king of kings in this case, because kings bow before him and he's over those kings. Now the kings, for example, the king of Jehu, king of Israel, is one of his vassals. If we go here, let's see, let's go here. This, for example, is the picture over there, and this is King Jehu from Israel bowing before Shalmaneser, the third of Assyria. So he is a vassal to the great king, the sovereign, the king of Assyria, and that's why he bowed to him. Now, if we read the scriptures say that you shall not do any alliance with any of the nations, of the pagan nations, or the nation around Israel, because the king of Israel is supposed to bow before the God of Israel, who is the sovereign and is the king to the king of Israel. Israel, the king of Israel is the king to the people, and the king of Israel is the vassal to the king of Israel, which is God. So that's how it was supposed to work. But if they made an allegiance with another nation, now they have to bow before another king, which would be in this case would be the king of Assyria the third. So it's the difference. We're looking at the difference and how it worked back in the ancient Near East in order for us to understand the Bible and some concepts that we will find in through the Bible. So, so the vassal, he was supposed to not only bow before him, but he was supposed to do some stuff that would recognize his loyalty or would prove that he was loyal to this great sovereign. So that's the steps that we will go through. And remember that when we study the Bible and ancient Near East, obviously we have to apply this to the Bible. The Bible is going to be the same thing. How we prove, how we show our loyalty to God is by doing some of the steps that obviously they understood back in the ancient Near East. So the first thing will be a recognition and praise. The first thing the vassal does is publicly acknowledge the donor's greatness. He titled the king with honorific formulas. My lord the king, king of kings, father, or my son, which is typical expression in the El Amarna letters. So these are basic expressions of what somebody who recognized, who understood what a gift was to them and that they did not merit that gift. And this is the response from somebody who understands that. Okay, let's go to extort his benevolence. Then he would extort his benevolence. My Lord is good. My Lord is merciful. Kind to his servants. So this is how he would express in these terms of honor. He's inflating the sovereign honor to acknowledge that the gift received is not a right, but is grace. It's something that is extended to him not because he merited this gift, but because it's given to him by the grace and the goodness of the great king. Think about it for a minute. If we study the Bible, we understand that God has given a great gift to us. One of them is eternal life. He promised land, He promised descendants. It's a great gift that He has given to us. Do we merit the gift that God has given to us? No, but how do we respond to the gift? Are we doing the same thing, the same step they did in the ancient Near East, being grateful for that gift? And it has nothing to do with something pagan or something from the ancient Near East. No, it's a way of expressing the gratefulness. It's a reciprocal way of recognizing the gratefulness from God and extending not only within you and your family, but also letting everybody know how good your God is. Prostration self-humiliation. In the diplomatic language of ancient Near East letter, for example, the Amarna letters, Basa responds to the king benevolence with formulas such as I prostrate myself 7 times and 7 times at the feet of my Lord, my son. Remember, Jacob did this when he was going back to the land. He prostrated before Esau 7 times. That has to do with recognition of Esau as his sovereign and Jacob becoming his vassal. That's why we will see later that he gives him a tribute because you are supposed to give a tribute to the sovereign, the great sovereign. Instead of giving the tribute to God, he gave it to Esau. That's how we understand patterns in ancient Near East. Your servant, the dog of your house, the dust under your feet. The vassal publicly acknowledged their inferiority, confess that they totally depend on the king's favor. That's why in the Bible, God is always calling on Israel to trust in God, not trust in somebody else, but trust in God, because He can depend on God's favor to him. God can protect him. God can give him provision. God extend grace and mercy, but only if they acknowledge their inferiority and trust completely in that of the king's favor. Show that they understand the gift as undeserved. It greatly resembles biblical phrases such as, "Who am I, Lord, that I should come to my house?" 2 Samuel chapter 7. "Who is your servant that you should look upon a dead dog like me?" 2 Samuel 9:8. And actually, we are going to go to 2 Samuel 9:8 because it's very important the structure that is using. Second Samuel, let's go here, 9, and we're gonna read from the beginning, from verse 1. And it says, "Then David asked, 'Is anyone still left from the family of Saul, so that I may extend kindness to him?'" Remember, extending kindness. It has to be chesed, as loyalty, to him for the sake of Jonathan. So David is extending kindness not because Mephibosheth, who is going to be the son of Jonathan, merit that kindness, but because what Jonathan and the friendship he had with David merit that he will extend kindness. Same thing happened in the Bible. What Abraham did, Isaac and Jacob bring merit. They did merits for us to in order because of their merits, because of their doing, because of their loyalty. We are here. If it's not for the loyalty from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we would not be here because Abraham was loyal to God and obedient to God. God swear and God make an oath by himself, an unilateral oath, and he raises his hand that he will always bring descendants and he will give the land of Israel to him and his descendants. So the land and the descendants from Abraham are bound by the promise that God made in an oath to Abraham. So that's why we are here. Not because we merit being here or because we deserve the gift from God. No, because somebody, and that was Abraham, was so loyal to God that God made a covenant with him, make an oath, and therefore we are here today. So same thing, and when we do prayers by Abraham, by the merits of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we understand that it's not because of us, but because of the covenant that God made with them. It's not even because of them. Obviously, they were loyal to God, but that loyalty made God make an oath. But it's because the oath God made that he swore by his own name. Therefore, he cannot break the covenant because he's swearing by himself. Okay, so let's continue here. So Jonathan make a he wanted to extend kindness because of Jonathan. Now, here is what David did. This is what we will see as a vassal and a patron or a sovereign. In this story, David is the sovereign. He's the king of Israel. Uh, Mephibosheth is the vassal. So the king had him brought, that is a Mephibosheth, from the house of Machir, son of Amiel, in Lodebar. When Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, came to David, he bowed low with his face toward the ground. David said, "Mephibosheth," he replied, "Yes, at your service." So this is the language of a vassal or a servant. David said to him, "Don't be afraid, because I will certainly extend kindness to you for the sake of Jonathan your father. You will be a regular guest at my table." Now you will be a regular guest. This vocabulary is very important. You will be a regular guest at my table. Now, in ancient Near East, somebody that is a guest is somebody that is protected, is somebody that is his honor is being respected and is being given him honor. So then Mephibosheth bowed down and said, "Of what importance I am your servant? What importance am I your servant that you should regard for a dead dog like me?" So Mephibosheth, in other words, is saying, "Why do you look at me to extend kindness to me? Who am I?" He's nobody. The king summoned Silva, okay, and everybody, and he says, Everything that belonged to Saul and to his entire house I hereby give to your master grandson. You will cultivate the land for him, you and your son and your servant. You will bring its produce, and it will be food for your master grandson to eat. But Mephibosheth, your master grandson, will be a regular guest at my table. So he extended mercy. This is the right way of understanding what is reciprocal relationship is within the ancient Near East, and how a vassal respond when the sovereign call him. And this is the example of a sovereign extending mercy and kindness and giving a gift. Obviously, Mephibosheth, he didn't deserve this gift, and he gave him this gift, the land and all the possession from Saul. So, okay, let's continue here. So it says, a commitment. Okay, knowledge is inferiority. Okay, he makes a commitment. Let's see. He will not make alliances with other king, will not rebel, will not aid the sovereign's enemies, swear by the gods or by the king's god, to keep the covenant, accept curses if loyalty is broken. So these are the vassal promises of exclusive loyalty. Remember, in the book of Exodus, we read in chapter 19 that Israel accepted all that God has said. So now in chapter 20, we will see that God requires exclusive loyalty to Him and only to Him and the only God. Exodus chapter 20, we'll start with that. In the book of Exodus chapter 20, let's go here. It says, God spoke these words, I am the Lord, I'm your God, who brought you from the land of Egypt, from the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image of any likeness or anything that is in heaven. So basically, God is telling them that they should only be loyal to God and only accept Him as the God, as the provider, as their sovereign. Very important, because no, if you make an alliance with another king in the ancient world, then you are transgressing, you're breaking the covenant that you made with this king. Remember, all of this comes from a free gift that somebody, a great king, gave to one to somebody, and this somebody becomes his vassal now. Finally, the vassal commits to obey the king's command, pay tribute unless expressly exempt, provide troops or military support if requested, build steel. Steel is what we were looking here before. It has to do with um, steel or maseva in Hebrew. It has to do with what this is a maseva actually. I was honored with my teacher Rico Cortez to be at this location in Shechem, where actually the book of Joshua speak of this stone here. It's a maseva. It was put there to be a witness against Israel. So these are pillar or sacred pillars. It has to do with uh, it has to do with what was done in the ancient Near East to proclaim. This one I took in the Israel Museum. Some pillars. Actually, there is one here. Let me see if I can show you. Let me see if I can show you here. Um, it's one here somewhere that shows inside a most holy place to them at that time. And we understand that the Bible actually prohibits us from having um, a sacred pillar or building something like that, because in the Canaanite religion it dealt with it represented the god, while in the Bible most Joshua and in the book of Genesis we will see that it represents a location, it's a marker, It's a bit different from the Bible. When we study the Bible, we study ancient Near East. The reason why it was done. Obviously, Jacob did not do idolatry when he uh, put the pillar up, but it was a marker for a sacred space, according to some of the stuff that they did in the ancient Near East to mark some location. But also in Canaanite, especially, it was used as a means of worship. So that's why it was later prohibited in the Bible. Okay, let's go here. Let's go back here to our presentation. Let's see here. Okay, so he was to obey the king's command. Okay, build a steel inscriptions or monuments that commemorate the king's favor. Remember, we are supposed to be witnesses of God to the nations. So we have to be this stele. We have to be this maseva, the maseva that was put upon here that you see here in Shechem as a witness. Later, they could not do this. So we are supposed to be the living stone. We are supposed to be the stones that proclaim the greatness of God, proclaim the favor that God has had toward us, proclaim the goodness of God. Our lives should reflect that. Instead of lifting up a stone, now we lift ourselves. Our life reflect the goodness of God. How grateful we are for His gifts. How merciful He has been to His people. That's what we're supposed to be. In Exodus and Deuteronomy, God acts sovereignly, liberation from Egypt, protection, promised land. Israel must respond with recognition. God is our God. Self-humiliation. We were slaves. Exclusive loyalty, no other gods, and obedience to the Torah as a form of gratitude. So now the obedience to the Torah is not something that is bad for us, but is something in response to gratitude. Actually, when we study the ancient Near East and the laws in the ancient Near East, the Torah basically brings a lot of those laws that they understood in the ancient Near East and apply them with justice and mercy. And also, it has a code of sanctity, which ancient Near East, I haven't found any code, any legal code that actually connect sanctity or being holy to the laws. While the Bible does, the Bible requires holiness, and the laws, or a lot of the laws, are done in order to protect what is holiness and that God may be in the midst of the people. So, obedience to the Torah. Okay. So these are the resources I'm using here. Moshe Wainfield, great book. Uh, Meredith Klein, great book. David Da Silva, Ade Silva, great book. It has to do it has a lot of information and some other resources I'm using. Okay, let's continue here. Defending sacred things as a defense of the sovereign. In the ancient Near East, sovereign vassal treaties structured the relationship between a king, sovereign, and a subordinate people, vassal. Within the relationship, protecting the sovereign possession, temples, symbols, and prerogative was a fundamental legal obligation. Remember, protecting the sovereign's possessions, temples, and prerogative was a fundamental legal obligation. Now, my question is, are we doing this today? Are we protecting? Do we understand our position as vassal? Is God our sovereign? And if so, are we protecting the temples and God's possessions, what God declared holy, or are we desecrating it? What's our position on that? Because in the ancient Near East, the vassals were supposed to protect, within that relationship, protecting the sovereign possession, temples, and prerogative was a fundamental legal obligation. It's not even a religious obligation, it's a legal obligation. It was not merely a religious act, but a political legal duty that expressed fidelity to the covenant. So the way they expressed fidelity to the covenant was by protecting the temples and the possessions that the sovereign or the great king had. So now my question to you today is, one of the questions is going to be, is the land, does the land of Israel belongs to God? If so, it's the possession of God. Therefore, obviously I believe the land of Israel is God's possession. So we have to defend the land of Israel. The people of Israel, is it God's possession? In the book of Exodus, we just read here in the book of Exodus, chapter 19. Let's go back there. It says, here 19. You yourself, okay. Moses went up to God. Okay. And now, if you will diligently listen to me and keep my covenant, then you will be my special possession. So Israel is a special possession to God. Now, it's a possession to God. It belongs to God. Now we have to protect the people of Israel, defend the people of Israel. The temple is God's temple. It's not the Jewish temple. It's not for the people of Israel. It's God's temple and God's throne. Therefore, we have to protect God's sacred space, the temple, the priest. They are God's possession because God give them the authority to move on the sacred space. So we have to defend them and their honor. If we don't do that, then where is our fidelity to the covenant? It's not only saying that we are faithful to God, we have to show in acts. We have to show that we are being faithful to God, not only by words, but by actions, defending God's holy things, God's temple, God's possessions. Applied to biblical framework, Israel as vassal and God as sovereign inherit the same logic. Defending the holy defend equals defending the authority of the sovereign God. What's the principle in the ancient Near East? Sanctity as property of the sovereign. In Hittite, Assyrian, and Aramic treaties, certain objects of space were considered exclusive property of the king. Their desecration or neglect represented. So remember, desecration and neglect of this exclusive property of the king represented in the ancient Near East disloyalty or treason to the sovereign, breach of covenant or violation of the established agreement, and usurpation, claiming authority without a right. So basically, if we're the servants of God, if we're God's vassal, we have to not only defend, but also protect and take care of the holy things. Was not that the role of Adam when he was in the garden? He was supposed to protect. Let's see if I can go here to the book of Genesis, chapter 2. Uh, the Lord, verse 15, the Lord God took the man and placed him in the orchard in Eden to care for it and to maintain it. Then the Lord God commanded to him, you shall. Okay, so Adam has the same purpose, the same function to care for holy things and maintain holy things or holy space. The same thing that in the ancient Near East the people or the vassal were supposed to protect certain objects or spaces that were considered the exclusive property of the king, and their desecration or neglect represented disloyalty, treason to the sovereign, breach of covenant, violation of the established agreement, or usurpation. That's why we understand when the Bible in the book of Genesis it tells us that Adam ate of the fruit. Obviously, he was being disloyal to God. Instead of protecting and not eating from the food that was prohibited to him, he breached the covenant, acted with treason and disloyalty, eating and not fulfilling his job of caring for and protecting. So it's the same thing. It all applies the same thing to us. If we don't protect God's space, God's exclusive property, then we're doing the same thing, being disloyal to God. Parallel example in ancient Near East, violation of the seal with the king's name. So something that had the name of the king was considered rebellion. Desecrating a royal temple, an attack on sovereignty. Remember, desecrating a royal temple. So now, if we go into what desecrating is, we can probably connect this to what is speaking bad about the king. It can be um, rejecting the king. It can be acts of disloyalty. So this becomes an attack directly on God's sovereignty. when you don't want the temple to be built, when you speak against the temple, then you are becoming a threat to God's sovereignty. It's a direct attack on God's sovereignty. And remember that God is going to act if somebody desecrates his property. Now, let me take you to the book really quick. Let me take you to the book of Daniel, chapter 9, chapter 5. The book of Daniel, because the story is very important for us for this study. The book of Daniel, chapter 5, it gives us an example of what desecrating is and the consequence of it as well. Let's go here to verse 1. So it says, King Belshazzar prepared a great banquet for 1,000 of his nobles, and he was drinking wine in front of them all. Where under the influence of the wine, Belshazzar issued an order to bring the gold and silver vessels, the ones that Nebuchadnezzar his father had confiscated from the temple in Jerusalem. So the king and his noble, together with his wife and his concubines, could drink from them. So they brought the gold and silver vessels that had been confiscated from the temple, the house of God. So they are from the house of God. So obviously they belong to God. They do not belong to the king for them to do what they want to do with them. They belong to the house of God. And God, they were supposed to be used for only a purpose that only God has the authority for it, or God can authorize somebody. Obviously, Belshazzar did not have authority to drink from them. So they brought, okay. So now, as they drank wine, they praised the God of gold, silver, bronze, iron, and stone. At that very moment, the figure of a human hand appeared and wrote on the royal plaster wall opposite to the lamps. Okay, so now we know the story that they were drinking and a hand came and his kingdom was removed and obviously he was removed from the kingdom. But we see what he did, his actions to use something that did not belong to his property, was the property of God, the God of Israel. And he was drinking from this that is not his property, causing a big problem because he was doing what exactly is saying here. He was using exclusive property of the king. He was desecrating them because he was worshiping the God of wood, stone, metal, but he never worshipped the God of Israel. So that became disloyalty and usurpation, claiming authority without right, and treason to the sovereign because he didn't have any authority to use that. So violation of a seal with the king's name, rebellion. Uh, Remember, violation of a steel, as I showed you before, a steel was something that could carry, it's like, let me go here. It's gonna go, it's the steel of Mesha, okay, let me close this. Let me see if I can find sacred, okay, sacred pillar, let's go here. The massive, huh? Okay, let's see. Where there is a stone, there's a stone that actually shows. Okay, this is a pillar. Let's see. The Silva logos copyrighted. This is a still. Let me see if I can see here. Okay. Anyway. Um, some of these had inscriptions from the god or whoever was in memory of. So now, um, this was put in different places in order that people going through would see it as a witness or as bringing honor to a king. Now, remember that the temple of Israel is where God's name is supposed to be proclaimed. It's supposed to be a witness for all the nations of the God of Israel and his mercy. So now, violation of a seal with the king's name was a rebellion. So if we violate the space where God has put his name in Israel, in Jerusalem, and in the Mount Zion, then it becomes a rebellion against God. This is why it's so important for us to understand the legality from the Bible. because the Bible is not just a random something just written randomly. It has a legality with it, and it has consequence. And when the people of Israel went into covenant with the God of Israel, and they say all that God has said we will do, then we are accepting the consequence for being rebellion. That's why we are in exile. That's why we go into exile, because we rebel against God, profaning His name, profaning His holy things, changing the calendars like the tribes of the north, and changing the feasts. That's why we go into exile, because we become rebellion against God, and we have accepted consequences for being rebellion. Desecrating a royal temple, an attack on sovereignty, taking objects dedicated to the king, theft from the palace, punished with maximum penalty. In this context, defending things dedicated to the sovereign was a legal duty of the vassal to maintain the pact in force. Israel adopts this framework. The holy belongs to the divine king. In the Bible, holy, Kodesh, is not merely religious. It is what God set apart as his own. It's not something religious, but it's what God set apart as being his. Remember, well, actually, when we study the words Shvuah and Nedarim, both an oath. Remember, if somebody decide that they want to give something to the temple and they make an oath or a vote to give something to the temple, they have to fulfill. We have the example of Ananias and Sapphira, which they made a vow and they never come. They actually stole from what they were supposed to give. This become what we read before. What we read before here. It becomes taking objects dedicated to the king. So they had dedicated this to the king. Now they take something from it. It's theft. It's punishable by it has a maximum penalty, death. So in the Bible, something holy is what God has set apart as his own. It implies absolutely sovereignty. The sanctuary is his place. Exodus chapter 25, verse 31. Chapter 25 to chapter 31. The temple or the sanctuary is his place. It's the place where God has put his name so that his people can meet with him. It's his sovereignty. If somebody touches or somebody try to have authority over that, is desecrating and is a rebellion. The priests are his officials. The priests are God's officials. It's not the people officials. It's not the people who choose them. It's God who chooses them. Actually, if we go to the book of Numbers, let me go here really quick. Numbers chapter 18. Numbers chapter 18. Close this. Net Bible. Numbers chapter 18. So it says, verse 1, the Lord said to Aaron, you and your son and your ancestral house with you shall bear responsibility for offenses connected with the sanctuary, while you and your son alone shall bear responsibility for offenses connected to the priesthood. So bring with you also your brothers, the tribe of Levi, your ancestral tribe, in order that they may be joined to you and serve you while you and your sons with you are in front of the tent of the covenant. They shall perform duties for you and for the whole tent, but they must not approach either the utensils of the sanctuary or the altar, otherwise both they and you will die. So we see here the roles and function. So Aaron and his sons were supposed to be in charge of the sacred stuff. The Levites were not even supposed to touch the utensils because it's property of the king, and the king gives authority to who he chooses to have to manipulate those utensils. Um, but you just saw you shall okay. The Lord spoke to Aaron, I have given you charge of the offerings. See what it says here. Charge of the offerings made to me all the holy gift of the Israelites. I have given them to you and your son as a priestly portion due to your perpetuity. Also, this belongs to the people to Aaron and his sons. let me see here, Numbers chapter 3. Okay, it says, chapter 3, verse 1. This is the lineage of Aaron and Moses at the time. Okay. Eleazar, these are the name of the son of Aaron, the anointed priest whom he ordained to minister as priest. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, verse 6, bring the tribe of Levi near, set them before Aaron and the priest, so that they may assist him. Verse 11, then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, I hereby accept the Levites from among the Israelites as substitutes for all the firstborn that open the womb. So Aaron and his son has some duties, and and uh, and the Levites had some other duties. That's why very important. These priests and the Levites are officials for God. The sacred objects are his property, and worship is his administrative protocol. So if we change the secret objects are and the priesthood, if we change the sanctuary or we disregard the sanctuary or the temple, and if we disregard the worship or we change the method of worship, then we're becoming rebellious to God. We're becoming worthy of punishment based on the stipulation from the covenant. So therefore, defending holy things is equivalent to defending the dignity of God as a sovereign king. Defending the holy, fulfilling the vassal loyalty, defending the holy according to the logic of the covenant, loyalty, loyal love, expressing active protection of the sovereign and his assets, fidelity, emunah, constancy in keeping what is established. When an Israelite guarded what was holy, avoiding desecration, ensuring the order of worship, obeying rituals regulation, they exercise the two main virtues of the faithful vassal. So the way that the people of Israel or anybody that is part of the covenant and become part of the people of Israel, the way that they guard what is what their functions is to guard what is holy and avoid desecration. Obviously, some people have more responsibility than others. For example, the Levites, they were supposed to protect the sanctuary and later the temple. The priest, their role was higher. They were closer to the sanctity, so they were supposed to protect more. If somebody from the people of Israel went and tried to penetrate into the holy place, obviously there was a guard from the Levite that would stop him. Now, if a Gentile would try to come into the temple, there were guards, but also the people of Israel would stop him from going into the sacred spaces. So every people, the priests have a role to protect the holy. The Levites have a role to protect the holy. The people of Israel have a role to protect the holy in different ways. But everybody has to protect the holy and avoid desecration of the holy. If we do this, if we protect or we guard what is the holy and the holy spaces, and we avoid desecration of God's name, of God's feast, of the temple, then we are fulfilling the two main virtues of what a faithful vassal was according to the ancient Near East and according to the Bible. So a faithful vassal is not the one who says, I love the Lord, I love the God, I love God, I love the Lord, I want to be a faithful servant. No, it's the one who acts, the one who in actions show that he is actually a faithful vassal. So keep that in mind. Sometimes we have twisted what is loyalty or what is love and what is fidelity. It's based on loyalty. It's not based of something that you feel in your heart or in your stomach. No, it's something that is based on loyalty and faithfulness to God. So, for example, we already saw this example. The Levites, as guardian of sacred space, they were supposed to protect the sanctuary. Phinehas, chapter 25, he was sealed with my seal. Nadab and Abihu, and Uzzah and Korah, usurpation or profanation of the sovereign's property. So Nadab and Abihu, they profane um, the the sovereign's property by bringing a strange fire, and Uzzah was did usurpation. Obviously, his intention was not to do that, but he touched something that he was not supposed to touch, and therefore he did not have the sanctity and the and the ordination to do that. Levites, we already see this align with ancient Near East function of guarding the king's property, defending what is holy, defending the sovereignty of God against usurpers. So, in the ancient Near East model, usurpations occur when a vassal attempts to decide what only the king can decide. Very important to pay attention to this. In the ancient Near East, usurpation occurs when a vassal attempts to decide what only the king can decide. So now, think about it. Holy space, temple, feast, calendar. All of that is within the jurisdiction of God, the king, the great king, the sovereign. So if we decide a different day from the day he has established, or we change the authority from whoever God established the authority, then we're being usurpers. So it says, decide what only the king can decide, take what belongs only to the king, alter functions linked to royal authority, like the priesthood. In the Bible, the desecration of the sanctuary, worship, or objects of God is not merely ritual sin, it is an attempt to usurp the place of the sovereign. So, by somebody doing any of this, he's trying to put himself in the place of the sovereign. Very, very important. And we gotta be very careful because there are serious consequences for somebody who usurps the authority of God or who try to usurp the authority of God. And we must be careful with that. God has already established an order. We just gotta abide by it and follow it. Stand by the holy things, and He will stand by you. Defend the holy things, and He will defend you. But if we start to try to reinvent the wheel and try to do our own, because our heart desires, our own desires, our own ways of establishing things, we will end up usurping God's authority or trying to usurp God's authority. Laws protect divine sovereignty. That is why Levitical, Deuteronomic, and priestly laws protect the status of the temple as a royal place, the sacrificial system as the king's administration, holy things as legal symbols of the covenant. Very important that we keep this in mind. To defend them is to affirm God is the true king and he and his covenant govern us. So, theological connection defending the holy thing as an act of covenant loyalty. And this is to finish with this. I want to finish with this. God is the sovereign of the covenant. So God established a covenant with the people of Israel. The people of Israel accepted. We all went into covenant. We all are bound by the covenant. We all has to abide by stipulations from the covenant. We cannot deviate from them. So God is the sovereign of this covenant. God is the great king. He's the sovereign. We are his vassal. Israel, his vassals, obligated to loyalty based on the ancient Near East and the gift that God has given us. He's telling us why we should be loyal to him. And then we went into a covenant with him. So now we have to be loyal to the God of Israel. We are obligated by the covenant we did with him. The holy represent God's royal jurisdiction. Whatever is God set apart as holy is within God's jurisdiction. We cannot change it. We cannot manipulate it. We cannot establish our own rules inside his jurisdiction because it belongs to God. Carrying forth and defending it is obedience to the treaty. So if we care for God's holy things and we stand for them in obedience, it's loyalty. It's reflect our loyalty to God. To profane it is equivalent to rebellion or high treason within the ancient Near East covenant framework. To defend holy things is to defend God as sovereign, because in the sovereign vassal covenant system, the sovereign possession represent his authority and their safekeeping is an essential part of the vassal loyalty. So the sovereign possession represent God's authority, and in doing so or defending so, we are safekeeping the essential part of the vassal loyalty. So to finish, my question is: are we understanding the covenant that we went into with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Are we understanding our responsibilities as a vassal and our loyalty as a response to God's gift and God's mercy extended to us as a people, as a nation? Are we really understanding this? Or are we just trying to discern and pick and choose what we like and what we don't like? Me and my family, we decide to stand by the God of Israel. We will defend the holy things. We will defend his property. And the land of Israel is his property, his possession. The people of Israel are his possession. The priests are his, and he established them to minister in the holy things. And the temple is his throne and is a sacred space that is his sovereignty over it. So I will stand for anything that the Bible said that is holy, that belongs to God, and that God has set apart as his. Now the question is, are you willing to stand by God, defend his honor, defend his possessions, and defend what he has set apart as holy? As I said in the beginning, Adam was supposed to protect and care for the holy space and the holy things. He failed to do that, and he was removed from the sacred space. The people of Israel were later um, chosen in the book of Exodus to protect and care for the holy things. A lot of the times they actually went and installed idolatry and worship to Baal and other deities, even in the temple, in God's property. They were removed from the land and they went into exile. It doesn't mean that they stopped being the possession of God, because God chose them forever by a covenant he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The descendants of them are his possession forever. So, our duty as part of the covenant is to protect anything that is set apart by God. Are you going to stand by it? Or are you just going to do whatever your heart feel that is good and pleasant and that you'd like? Remember that the Bible is legal. It's not just a written book. It has legal concepts and laws that we are bound to when we accept the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as our God and as our sovereign. I hope this teaching be a blessing to you. And remember to hit like, subscribe, and share with others. And if you want to visit our page, you can go to our page, mamarahel.net, where you can find more information in regards to other topics, and also the study of the Bible and ancient Near East. And I see you next time. Shalom.